Chapter 2, New Kings and Kingdoms. So this chapter will discuss about the kingdoms and the rulers of that time. Okay. So many new dynasties emerged after the 7th centuries. So in 7th centuries or after 7th centuries, many new dynasties, kingdoms emerged. So map 1 shows the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent between the 7th and 12th centuries. Take care of a spelling. Okay, 7th and 12th. Okay. So this map is showing, or it gives the names of the important dynasties, okay, of that time between 7th and 12th centuries. So these were the major kingdoms of that time. The emergence of new dynasties. So first thing is how these dynasties came into existence, how these dynasties have emerged. Okay, first thing is emerged. Next thing is how they ruled, how they administered, and third thing is how they acquire other dynasties, and finally what happened in the later phases. So these topics will discuss those details. The emergence of new dynasties. By the 7th century, there were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions of the subcontinent. Existing kings often acknowledged them as their subordinates or samantas. They were expected to bring gifts for their kings or overlords, be present at their courts, and provide them with military support. As samantas gained power and wealth, they declared themselves to be Mahasamanta, Mahamandaleshwara, the great lord of a circle or a region, and so on. Sometimes they asserted their independence from their overlords. So this is how the samantas came to power. This discusses samantas were special. See what the samantas were. They were subordinates of the king himself. So they were considered as chief or warrior chiefs. Okay. They were expected to bring gifts for the kings, and slowly samantas gained power and wealth because they were acknowledged by the king and other people in the kingdom. So they slowly gained power, and they started calling themselves as Mahasamanta or Mahamandaleshwara. So that means the great lord of the circle itself. So they started considered as the superior of other people in the kingdom. Okay, so they got power from there. One such instance was that of the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. So for example, Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. Initially they were subordinate to the Chalukyas of Karnataka. So how Rashtrakuta gained power? They were subordinate to Chalukyas of Karnataka. In the mid 8th century, Danti Durga, a Rashtrakuta chief, overthrew his Chalukya overlord and performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha, literally the golden womb. When this ritual was performed with the help of Brahmanas, it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya, even if he was not one by birth. So Hiranyagarbha was one of the ritual which was performed by Rashtrakuta chief Danti Durga, where if someone is not Kshatriyas by birth, they can be considered as Kshatriyas. So this is how Rashtrakutas were subordinate earlier, but later on gained power over Chalukyas. In other cases, men from enterprising families used their military skills to carve out kingdoms. For instance, the Kadamba, Mayurashraman, and the Gurjara Pratihara Harichandra were Brahmanas who gave up their traditional professions and took to arms, successfully establishing kingdom in Karnataka and Rajasthan respectively. So they emerged in Rajasthan and Karnataka. Next thing is administration in the kingdom. So when there is a kingdom, it is very much important to administer it with proper rules. Okay, so this topic will discuss about the administration in the kingdoms. Many of these new kings adopted high sounding titles such as Maharaja Adhiraja. Okay, great king, overlord of the king, it means this. So Tribhuvana Chakravartin, lord of the three worlds. Okay, so these are the names given to the great kings to respect them or to honor them. However, in spite of such claims, they often shared power with their samantas as well as with association of peasant traders and brahmanas. They were rulers, but they had to share power with samantas, peasants, traders and brahmanas. In each of these states, resources were obtained from the producers, that is peasant, cattle keepers, artisans, who were often persuaded or compelled to surrender part of what they produced. Sometimes these were claimed as rent due to a lord who asserted that he owned the land. Revenue was also collected from traders. So the taxes or revenues were collected from the peasants or cattle keepers and also the traders. 400 taxes. Okay, let's read this. The inscription of the Cholas who ruled in Tamil Nadu referred to more than 400 terms of different kinds of taxes. The most frequently mentioned tax is Vetti, taken not in cash but in the form of forced labor, and Kadamai or land revenue. So tax were not only collected in revenue, it was also collected in the form of forced labor. Forced labor means if someone is not able to pay the taxes, they will undergo some work. Okay, they have to do some work for some time. So in the compensation of the tax, if they are not paying the tax in kind or cash, so it will be collected. Suppose for a few days they will work here, like that. Okay. There were also taxes in thatching the house, the use of ladder to climb palm trees, assess on succession to family property, etc. Other kind of taxes are discussed here. Any such taxes collected today? No. Okay, only some of the taxes that are in the form of like the main government taxes, like a state tax and the central government tax. Okay, there are several categories of the taxes, but a kind of forced labor and those things doesn't exist. Okay, now these resources were used to finance the king's establishment as well as for the construction of temples at forts. They were also used to fight wars, which were in turn expected to lead to the acquisition of wealth in the form of plunder and access to land as well as trade routes. The functionaries for collecting revenue were generally recruited from influential families and positions were often hereditary. This was true about the army as well. In many cases, close relatives of king held these positions. So higher positions who will be involved in collecting tax and managing the administrative work will be the influential families who are like close to kings or relatives of kings. They will be allowed to do the administrative work and collect taxes. So next topic is about prashastis and land grants. Prashastis contain details that may not be literally true, but they tell us how rulers wanted to depict themselves as valiant, victorious warriors, for example. These were composed by learned brahmanas who occasionally helped in the administration. Okay. So here it says the achievements of Nagabhatta. Many rulers described their achievement in prashastis. You read about the prashasti of the Gupta ruler Samudragupta last year. One prashasti written in Sanskrit and found in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, describes the exploits of Nagabhatta, a Pratihara king, as follows. The king of Andhra, Sendhava, Sindh, Vedarbha, part of Maharashtra, and Kalinga, part of Orissa, fell before him even as he was a prince. He won a victory over Chakrayudha, the ruler of Kanauj. He defeated the king of Vanga, part of Bengal, Anartha, part of Gujarat, Malava, part of Madhya Pradesh, Kiratha, forest peoples, Turushka, Turks, Vatsa, Matsya, both kingdom in North India. So these are the old name now known as given in brackets. Okay. So he won victory over so many places. Kings often rewarded Brahmanas by grants of land. These were recorded on copper plates, which were given to those who received the land. Now, what was given with the land? This is part of the Tamil section of a land grant given by the Cholas. This is from the Tamil section of land grant. So we have demarcated the boundaries of the land by making earthen embankments as well as by planting thorny bushes. This is what the land contains: fruits bearing trees, water land, gardens and orchards, trees, wells, open spaces, pasture land, a village, anthills, platform, canal, ditches, rivers, silt-laden land, tanks, granaries, fish ponds, beehives and deep lakes. He who receives the land can collect taxes from it. He can collect the taxes imposed by judicial officers as fines, the tax on betel leaves, that on woven cloth as well as on vehicles. He can build large rooms with upper stories made of baked bricks. He can get large and small wells dug. He can plant trees and thorny bushes. If necessary, he can get canals constructed for irrigation. He should ensure that water is not wasted and that embankments are built. So with some condition, lands are granted, and it is the details which is given here. And what can someone do on this land? What are permitted rather to do on these lands? Unusual for the 12th century was a long Sanskrit poem containing the history of kings who ruled over Kashmir. It was composed by an author named Kalhana. He used a variety of sources including inscription, documents, eyewitness accounts and earlier histories to write his account. Unlike the writers of Prashastis, he was often critical about rulers and their policies.